Okay, I think we're live. I think we're good. I just need to let everyone in Discord know that I'm live. And we'll go from there. I don't think anyone's in chat just yet, but we'll get there. Alright, at everyone. Boop. Send that out. I need to pop it in here. I'm super self-conscious, specifically because it's been a hot minute since I did any IRL stuff. So it's weird realizing, oh, there's a camera on me. The camera can see me. It's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Let me drop this in here, in the Mario group. They don't need to know. Raglan would probably like to know. Raglan would probably like to know. Where's the... Ah, here we are. Subjects live section. Bada bing, bada boom. Put that in the self-promotion. Fuck yeah. Is there anywhere else that I can spam this? I think that's it. I honestly think that's it. Nope. Pixel Dragon. Pixel Dragon. Boop. Alright. And we are streaming. Everything's working. There's no music. And also, due to how high I am sitting, my face appears to be mostly cut off, or partially cut off the top bit. It makes me look more bald than I am with my large forehead. Oh, why won't chat? Hey, it's Gata in real life. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing tonight? It's weird knowing that I can, like, look you in the eyes. Hello. Hello, Jen. I am looking directly at... What fell over? Hold up. What's this? Oh, okay, that's fine. Nothing that I need for tonight. We're good. Hello, Trunket. Hello. I like when he said, it's farming time, and then farmed all over the place. True, true. That's one of my favorite parts, too, quite frankly. The legal protection for farming all over the place is very nice, actually. Being able to show up in court and being like, Your Honor, I'm a farmer. And they're like, damn it, we can't get him. Don't perceive me. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm going to have to perceive you. I'm also going to have to rotate my mic around because the camera is here. Chat is here. Hey, Stella! Thank you so much for the sub. You've subscribed for 38 months, and you're currently on a 16th month streak. What the fuck? You get a jolly jangle of the cheer bell. Thank you! You guys haven't actually seen the cheer bell in like 2 years, but no, it's the same one. It's the same one. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Let me mess with the camera just a smidge. Oh, don't want to go that high. Just so that... There we go. That feels a bit better. That feels a bit better. It's a real life Gata! Oh my god! Maybe it's a little too high? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't had to mess around with the camera setup in like years. Also, chat is supposed to be showing up. Why isn't it? Properties. Yeah, it should be working. Can I do... Test. There we go. There's chat. You're supposed to be showing up this whole time. Also, that's a bit large. Let's make you smaller. Got a hair in my mouth. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. Everyone's coming in real quick. Let me give you guys a quick overview of what we're actually doing here today. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Gata. And I am a number of things. I wear a number of different hats, not the Moen, obviously. Maybe we might even see a real-life beautiful wife? Gasp! Do you want the internet to perceive you, darling?
Sure.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. I didn't think she'd say yes. Oh, my God. It will require I reveal the rest of our living room. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well... Everyone say hello to my beautiful wife. Oh, chat's in the way. Hold on, let's move chat.
I'm in my jammies.
She's in her jammies.
Oh my god, a real life.
Hi. Mwah. Hi. I love you so much. Everyone say hello to my beautiful wife. She's here in the flesh. It's the real one. Oh my god. Stella's here. Aya's here. Susie's here. Behold! So beautiful in real life.
You guys make me blush.
Yeah. Mwah. I love you so much. You want to tell them how your day went?
Sure, we went book hunting.
Did you find anything good?
Yeah, I got a new book. I posted it on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see the gay. Ah, thank you.
The love you two share is immaculate. Mwah.
It's called They Drown Our Daughters. It's a gothic drama that's like a Excuse me, I had to yawn. Multi-generational curse that has like ghosts and mermaids, and I'm really excited to read it.
She came home and the first thing she did was we went to this place, they didn't have a book. Went to that place, they didn't have a book. Went to Books A Million. Tell them about Books A Million.
Okay, so I am looking for the Books A Million exclusive cover of Volume 6 of Wodakoi.
Okay.
And they did not have it.
What good are they?
Yeah, literally.
The one thing you wanted them for, and they can't even do that.
So we have 2 Books A Million that's like in driving distance. They are not close though. They're like an hour away. Mm-hmm. Which, when you live out where we live, that is driving distance.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the hello.
Just Bandit.
So I was really hoping to find it, and I didn't. So I picked up this book instead. Mm-hmm. Very, very disappointing.
Mm-hmm. I'm very sorry.
We did find the 3rd book in the trilogy that we were looking for my friend Russell. But they didn't have the 2nd book.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one that he actually needed.
I know, Aya. How can they not have their own exclusive?
They had one job and they couldn't even do that. Books A Million, my ass.
I know. More like books A Zero.
I love you so much. Can I get a kiss?
Yeah.
I love you. Mwah. All right, I'm going to put my enclosure back around me and we'll get on with the actual show stuff. Okay?
How long is this going to take?
How long do I usually stream?
I feel like forever.
Yeah. One more kiss. Come here. Mwah. No, my attention has to go back to them now.
Okay.
Everyone say goodbye to my beautiful wife.
Goodbye, everybody.
I love you.
I will enclose you again.
That's right, I got it. You just don't trip over anything.
No promises.
Okay. Alrighty then. Make sure this is properly closed. Hello, everyone. Hello. So, to let you guys know what we were actually doing today, my name is Gata. I have a number of different hats that I wear. Primarily, I'm a VTuber. I play Minecraft. I'm also a TTRPG designer, and that's the one that we're focusing on today. I don't think I can call myself a chicken tender or a cake decorator anymore because I don't do either of those things, but I have a long list of things. I am very much a wife guy, though, as you just saw. So, we sure have upgraded from the empty room behind you. Yeah, no, this is an Amazon find. It's a room divider, and to help with the reverberation of the audio, I put this blanket up to kind of help it out. We also have like a window right here, and I had to put my beautiful wife, you can probably maybe see it? No, it's not showing it, but there's like a little sliver in the blinds that like shines directly onto my face. So normally when I'm playing games, my main screen is right here. I'm like real close. I'm like this, and the screen's like right here. And then I'm like playing my video game. I'm like, hey guys, I'm a VTuber. Ha ha ha. It's very fun. Very fun. Only problem is that Meatloaf really enjoys knocking over the divider, so it doesn't always work quite the way that I want it to, but it's okay. Eating the mic is definitely the way for better audio. Yeah, absolutely. I want to get a directional mic that I can just like aim directly into my mouth hole, so it doesn't have to be like, I don't have to be like just like devouring the microphone. I keep looking at my main screen thinking that's where the action is. No, the camera's over here, and I'm very sorry. Gross, hate that. You guys get that for free. That's how much I love you guys. You get that action for free. Don't say I never did nothing. Anyway, so what are we actually Tegan? I'm sorry. There is no veg IRL. Most of the redeems are turned off, unfortunately. So just kind of, if you're here and you're enjoying it, just sit back, relax, accrue those boxed, and you can torture me the next time we stream. Tegan, I'm sorry. .mp3. Oh, there's the light. There's the light shining up. Can I move something to kind of block that out? Yes, please consider donating. So as you can see the little bar above me, I am currently raising some funds for a little gift for myself. I am a massive fan of the Nintendo 64 title Paper Mario. And in North America, 2 guides were printed. This is the official Nintendo Power Guide that was actually written by Prima. This is the main guy that was released in North America, and you guys actually bought this for me over a year ago. Thank you for that, by the way. I absolutely adore it. But there was another guide that was printed by Brady Games. Because this was the official Nintendo Power Guide, it blew the Brady Games one out of the water, so Brady Games were a limited print. I have never actually seen, until pictures very recently, the inside of the Brady Games book because of how rare it is. No one has one in wait, hold on, are you, holy shit, what are you talking about? Holy shit, Farmer Real, what's going on? What are you going, wait, why is holy shit? I don't understand. But no, so there is one available on eBay right now. There is one available on eBay right now. So if I get $80, I can buy it, and then I'll have them both. It sends it at holy shit for some reason. I don't know why. So, if you are interested in throwing me a couple of dollars, I'd really appreciate it. It's not the end of the world. It's literally just to buy me a cool toy. So, that is that. I don't really have like a game plan. I have all my TTRPG books just like right here. Just like I have all of these books. What do you want to look at? I'm going to throw $8 billion at me. Well, if you have $8 billion, I'll take 80, and the rest you can use to make your life easier. How does that sound? Does that sound fair? Does that sound fair? What setting is this? I haven't messed with... Go from least sexy book to most sexy book. Okay. Most sexy. Do you mean objectively this book is good looking, or give me your world building finishing skills, please? Sexy is also censored, up to you. So I have a number of books. Least sexy book. The least sexy book. I have to pick a book that is objectively, well, this book has a lot of sexy stuff in it, even if I don't find it sexy. I guess the least sexy book is, it's a little unfair of me to say, but this is particularly unsexy. This is Cops Were Called Gone Sexual. Oh no. No. The link in the donation page held my old URL. No! Why? I fixed that. I swear to God, I fixed that. Fuck off. Anyway, the least sexy book in my TTRPG collection, my physical TTRPG collection, to be clear, I own a lot of PDFs, would have to be this DC Heroes role-playing reference hardware handbook. I want you to just like appreciate how utilitarian this book is. Oh my God. Tegan, thank you so much for the $40. Thank you. You get a jolly jingle of the cheer bell. Thank you. Did you fix it, or did Tegan tell you to fix it and you forgot to fix it? I don't know. Also, I'm going to move chat over here because when I hold up... Bell reel? Yeah, Pixel, you haven't seen the bell. This is an actual bell. Like, it hasn't been a sound effect this whole time. I own an actual cowbell, and this is what I ring whenever someone donates or subscribes or anything. My wife hates it, but I know that she loves me because... Oh, thank you so much, Aya. Have fun being a good little book collector. Thank you so much. Oh my God. You also get a jolly jingle of the cheer bell. Thank you. Thank you so much. I haven't been streaming for more than 15 minutes and you guys have already got me almost all the way there. Thank you so much. You gotta ask us for nothing ever. I ask you for a lot of stuff all the time. I ask you for things frequently. I don't know what you mean. Alluring Allegro, hello. I swear to God, we're going to actually talk about books. So this is the hardware handbook for the DC Heroes role-playing game. This is the second edition of the DC role-playing game, published by Mayfair, published by Mayfair, okay? This is actually still fairly popular in old school gaming circles. DC Heroes was a game system that ran for a decent amount of time, up until, I want to say, 89, at which point the Tim Burton Batman movie came out, and they rebranded it to the Batman role-playing game, right? The bones were still the same, but they altered everything about it so it would thematically fit more with the movie that was coming out as a cross-promotion. This is literally just pages upon pages of text, numbers about doodads, right? This is entirely about... Oh, thank you so much for the $10. Get that book, nerd. Thank you, Pixel Dragon. You get a jolly jangle of the cheer bell. Thank you. And Mocha, thank you so much for the lurk. Henbert is not here to thank you for us, so thank you for the lurk. Enjoy sitting around. Heart, Mocha. Heart you. So, yes. So, one of the... Thank you so much for the $10. We've actually gone over the limit. Did someone donate $1? Is that what happened? It says 81. Oh, there's Handsome Anonymous Prince. Handsome Anonymous Prince says, hello. I am a handsome anonymous prince. Please accept this small sliver of my $8 billion. Thank you guys so much for the donations. You guys get jolly jangles, both of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my God. With the extra $1, it gets shipping, no less. Amazing. Thank you. So to actually tell you what the fuck this is, so this hardware handbook is literally just a list of gadgets and numbers. The DC Hero system actually used a, how do I word this? They used a rolling chart where it was... Oh, I don't have any visual. So you had like stats, and these stats could be large numbers, like 100 or more. And then they would take that number and there'd be a conversion chart into AP or action points. So that even though Superman, being Superman, would have physical stats that were in the hundreds of thousands, it would convert down into an AP to make it more obvious to compare. So there were chances for players and enemies of lower power level to get one over on Superman, right? Like just because he was super strong didn't mean he would always succeed. So there was a conversion involved, and it had like a long chart, and you'd have to like go from one road to another. You'd have to alter it. You'd shift it. Certain abilities would like shift down or shift up, and then you'd roll like a D100. And then you'd check that 100 against where it is in the chart, and it was a whole thing. People still like playing it. It was a lot. I have never tried playing it myself, but this sounds horrible. It is. I view DC Heroes and the Marvel Heroes games of the 80s in a way where I understand that it was innovation for innovation's sake. I do not think the then standard of like second edition D&D would have worked for superheroes. It was a way to allow you to have that power fantasy while still including an element of randomness and chance of failure to allow for role-playing opportunities. You didn't have to nerf Superman in order to have him exist in the same party as Batman, but you also didn't have to go out of your way to make Batman worthwhile, and that Superman didn't just overshadow him completely. So it was the most elegant option for the time. I don't know what Thakos is, and I don't want it. We're not going back to Thako. Please, no. So this is my least sexy book, but it was also the one that I was most excited. Jun _ Monday donated $5. Thank you so much for the donation, Jun. Thank you. You get a jolly jangle of the cheer bell. Thank you. I was really excited to see this on the shelf. DC Heroes stuff is fairly, mind you, this came out in the mid 80s, right? And it's been like 45 years since, actually, when was this printed? This book specifically was printed in 1987, all right? And for a book printed that long ago, this is in really good condition. Like, there's no notes in it. None of the pages are bent or ripped. There's no fading of the paper. Like, this was kept. Oh shit! There is a results table. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to see the results table for determining whether or not you succeeded on a roll? It's 2 pages long. Look at this. So you roll the D100, or actually, does it go to 200? Yeah, you roll D200, and then you compare it to the difficulty on the top, and then you go down to see where on the chart you land to determine whether or not you succeed. I don't actually know what the I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not for me. But at one point in time, this was like the standard. But this book, despite not being very sexy, is in amazingly good condition. I actually didn't find it myself. My wife went to a bookstore and I said, hey, take a picture of all the books on the TTRPG shelf, and if I see something that catches my eye, I'll point it out to you and tell me how much it is. She goes, okay, that's fine. So she takes a picture, and I'm looking at all the books. Hi, Pixel Rose. Welcome to the stream. We're doing an... Oh, shit. You cheered 10 bits. Thank you so much. You get a jolly jangle of the cheer bell. I'll wait till the bits go away. This is the physical cheer bell you get to see me jangle. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Some gay bitties for me. Oh, thank you for the gay bitties. Thank you for the gay bitties. So I saw just the bind, just the side of it in the picture, and I was like, what is that? And she pulls it out, takes a picture of the front, and I'm like, you need to get me that. It was $15, which is really, really good. So I got it, and I got it home, and I skimmed through it, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing, but also completely worthless, because like all of the advanced technology, right, is what advanced technology was in 1987. So their idea of a supercomputer takes up the entirety of a room. It can answer simple questions. Like, Google didn't exist when they wrote this book, okay? And actually, there is a table here for miniaturization, right? Because being able to become small was a really good superpower in 1987, right? So here's how it works, okay? So it has a list of APs that it says if you shrink, you'll be harder to hit because you're smaller, right? So naturally, the APs for someone trying to shoot you changes because you're now a smaller target. So there's a table here, and it has a list of negative modifiers, like if someone tries to hit you when you're miniaturized, the AP is -1 or -2, all right? These are the objects that the book gives you to give you an idea of like the average size. So like -1 AP, you are the size of a bread box. Do you know how big a bread box is? You might know how big a loaf of bread is. Do you know the average size of a bread box in 1987? The writers assumed that at any point in time in the near future that someone would read this and say, I know how large a bread box is. The second smallest thing is a boom box. Do you know the size of the average boom box in 1987? Apparently, it's smaller than a bread box, which is not how large I thought boom boxes were. Either I am thinking that bread boxes are smaller than they were, or bread boxes are significantly larger than I ever imagined them being. It depends on the boom box, okay? One volume, -3, is one volume of an encyclopedia. What? Do you know how... then it goes walkie-talkie, pistol, a super ball. What is a super ball? Why is a super ball smaller than a pistol? What makes it super? I don't understand this. A ballpoint pen, a D10. Now I know what a D10 is, right? I know what a D10 looks like. I know the size of a D10, so that makes sense. Smaller than that is a plain wedding ring. Why is it specified a plain wedding ring. And the smallest that this miniaturization table will let you go is the size of a frozen pea. These are units of measurement the game designers assumed would be understandable and instantly recognizable by any reader in the future. And I'm here in 2022 being like, I only understand a portion of those. I don't know. Bye, Essie. Thank you for stopping by. Super balls came out of coin-op machines at grocery stores. Oh, go hi, Tav. Hello. Bread boxes tend to be about the size of 4 standard boom boxes. Fuck off. For those of you joining us, we're going through the DC Heroes Hardware Handbook. This is actually the second book they had to release with gadget rules, because previously gadget rules were so fucked up that using them could either destroy the game or make non-meta superheroes absolutely useless. So this is actually the second edition of the revised gadget rules in order to make the game work, because they fucked up the math previously. I don't know how they fucked it up, but hey. All right, so that is my least sexy game book. Now we go to the second least sexiest. What is the second least sexiest game book that I have? This feels bad because there's a lot of I have a lot of books that I consider unsexy, but it feels like I'm saying it's bad for being unsexy. Let me, all right, I guess it has to be this one. You do have a genuine standard for 80s boomboxes due to too much time as an IRL props artist. That's cool. I understand I am not the control group. No, you are not the control group. That's fine. That's fine. The next least sexy book I have is also one of the most interesting books I have, which is the Tenchi Muyo RPG and Resource Book. Let me get a little zoom in on this. Gotta, yes, Tegan. Can I help you? Never say that title again. What? The Tenchi Muyo? Did I pronounce it wrong? I've never actually seen the show. Is it Tenchi Muyo, or I don't even know. Tenchi Muyo. Tenchai Muyo RPG and Resource Book. So this book is, I'm making it worse. This was printed by Guardians of Order. If you don't know what Guardians of Order was, there's a good reason for that. They mostly printed shit, and also they went bankrupt because they bought all of the anime licenses and couldn't turn a profit. Guardians of Order printed a Trigun RPG. They printed a Sailor Moon RPG. Actually, I think in the back... Let's see here. They're the guys who printed the original version of Big Eyes, Small Mouths, if you know what that is. They printed the Demon City Shinjuku RPG. I don't even know what that is, but apparently it was a thing during the early 2000s. They had Sailor Moon. They had Dominion Tank Police role-playing and RPG resource guide. So what this was printed, it says Tenchi Muyo was copyright 1992. This was printed in May of 2000, okay? May of 2000. For those of you who don't know what it was like to be an anime fan 22 years ago, now you have a very specific understanding of their weeb. Well, yes. 2000 was a very hard time to be an anime weeb. Actual official releases of things were really hard to find. There would be 4 episodes on a single VHS tape, and your local Blockbuster would have maybe 1, and it would be like volume 6. There would be no context for anything. The internet had some fan shrines, but didn't have like a Wikipedia to document everything about a show. So you would see 1 or 2 episodes of a random series, have no other access to it, and just be like, wow, anime is cool, and that was it. That was it. So enter Guardians of Order with their Tri-Stat system. This is a role-playing book, right? There's rules, there's dice, and there's stuff. I'm trying to find like a good a good point to, yeah. So like there's like stats, there's numbers for like guards and NPCs, there's rules for having weapons and special powers, but the first large portion of the book is in fact nothing to do with playing a game. The first, I want to say 40 or so pages, yeah, the first 35 pages of this book is nothing but an episode by episode recap of what happened in the fucking anime. Literally, let's look at this, okay? Spoilers for Tenchi Muyo, I guess. Episode 6, We Need Tenchi. Ryoko is holding herself while clutching Tenchi's scarf. Ryuoki appears and Ryoko teleports aboard her bridge where Ayeki and Mihoshi are sitting and looking stunned. Ryoko, this goes on for a full page. All right, I'm pronouncing everything terribly wrong. This is literally just a play-by-play of what happens in every single episode. Is the zoom fucking off? My face is over here, camera. Of every single episode from... If I slowly pull it back, will it auto zoom back? There we go. That's slightly better. Yeah, because this information wasn't available. Not only were they selling you on the game system, they were also trying to inform you of what fucking happens in the anime they're basing it on, just so that you know what the fuck is happening. And it then goes on. Most of the information here when it comes to character stuff is just like Wikipedia-esque blurbs about characters and concepts in the show, because it assumes that, like most anime fans in America, you haven't been able to actually watch it, which is absolutely wild. There is an actual RPG to go along with it. The Tri-Stat system, it's not very good. Mostly because this was a system that Guardians of Order made in-house to encompass all of anime. Again, they had the license to Trigun, they had the license to Tenchi, they had the license to Sailor Moon. I think they may have published a Dragon Ball RPG in there somewhere, I don't know. But basically, they were just grab-bagging all of these licenses in the hopes that they could print a book that would turn a profit somehow. Their plan was to go for quantity over quality. So the RPG system they made had to somehow encompass all of these different IPs. If you find the Sailor Moon one, send it my way. The Sailor Moon one was actually the most successful of their RPGs. They printed 3 books. One of them was like this. It was an episode guide with some rules on playing as a Sailor Scout. There was a sequel book, which I believe was about... Oh God, it was like journals from the perspective of the characters of the show, along with plot hooks to tell stories in the Sailor Moon universe. And I actually think the last 2 books were both in that style. One was specifically from Sailor Mercury? Which one's the blue one? I don't know. From the blue one's perspective. And then the second one was from Tuxedo Mask's perspective in playing characters who were not a Sailor Scout but still fit in with the Sailor Moon universe. I have read a PDF of the original first book. It's not good. It's not worth it. If I found a physical copy, then yeah, I'd get it, but the Tri-Stat system just isn't worth the paper it's printed on. And what's upsetting is that, the people who got these books read them and realized, oh, this is nice. People bought this more for the reference material than they did for the game inside, which meant that once they got the book on the anime they were curious about, they weren't going out and buying more Guardians of Order Tri-Stat books. They weren't going out to buy Big Eyes, Small Mouths unless they had originally were introduced to it via Big Eyes, Small Mouths. I do know that there was 2 Utena books. One for the original series and then one for the Black Rose arc, which people still view as like highly important because Utena was even harder to get in the States during that time period than anything. So those books are incredibly rare. If I find either of them, I'm getting them. But the game itself is just, it's not worth it. There's nothing, it barely tells you how to play it. I think there's like 3 stats, body, mind, and soul, but fuck if I know how you're supposed to set DC. Fuck if I know how that translates into fucking HP or anything. This book specifically does a very bad job of telling you how the game itself works. It's just a list of resources and statting vehicles and powers without actually teaching you how to play the game. So I don't know if you were meant to buy Big Eyes Small Mouths to start off, and I don't think the Sailor Moon one was a slightly better, but also then missed content that was in this, like piloting vehicles. I don't believe was in the Sailor Moon book. So like obviously the group went bankrupt. The individual went on to write Anime 5e, which is not a 5th edition book for anime. It is in a completely original system, but it's called Anime 5e because get that sweet, sweet SEO. Do not give that man money, however. When Guardians of Order went under, right, it was a big to-do in the mid-2000s because they had a whole bunch. Actually, what made them go under, this is fascinating, what made them go under was they paid out the ass for a Game of Thrones license. In 2005, they paid out the ass to get the license for Game of Thrones. And because they were shit game designers, the writer of Game of Thrones was consistently saying, hey, this isn't good. Go back and make a better Game of Thrones games. And they ran out of money. I think how it worked was they paid him half for the license, right? And then they gave him the pitch that they were planning on using, and he was like, that's not good. That's no good. That's no good. Start again. And eventually they tried to give so many games to him that he's like, these are all shit. I don't want you to publish a game for me anymore. So they never got the other half of that money because they never followed through on their part of the deal. Their part of the deal was to make a game that was going to sell. So they ended up going bankrupt because they spent all of their money just paying for half of the license for Game of Thrones. So one day, the guy who owned it kicked out everyone who was part of the group, said, you don't have a job anymore. I'll pay you when I pay you. And for most of the creatives on his staff, they never got paid. To this day, he still owes them money, and they'll never recoup on that. So when, I forget the guy's name, you can Google it yourself, when the main guy started doing Kickstarter stuff, he kickstarted the 3rd edition of Big Eyes Small Mouths. And a lot of the original writers said, I never got finished being paid for my work on the 2nd edition of Big Eyes Small Mouths, much less a 3rd. Anime 5e then came out. And again, the same stories went around like, hey, listen, this guy makes subpar TTRPGs and isn't known for paying the fucking people who work for him. So don't, but it said anime, it had a 5 and an E on the title, so the game sold gangbusters on Kickstarter. I've skimmed it. It's nothing to write home about. But it's also not a conversion of anime concepts into 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So it's more than a little misleading. A lot of people were very upset when they realized they were duped, essentially. So, you know, I don't... Actually, I wonder if his name is on this. Is it Jeff McIntosh? I'm trying to find who was the producer, if this book actually lists him on here. I want to say it's John Noack, but I also don't want to drag a man's name through the mud without checking myself. You can Google this if you're interested. But basically, that was the quick rise and immediate fall of Guardians of Order. This I actually found in a Goodwill for like $2 because no one knew what it was. No one wanted it. And I grabbed it and I was like, huh. This is interesting. I'm vaguely aware this anime exists, and I know what TTRPGs are, even though I wasn't playing them at that time. So I got it, and I skimmed through it, and it sparked my imagination, mostly because the lack of information on how the game is actually played made me more curious about how the game was actually played. I wanted to dissect it and reverse engineer it. But also, I didn't care enough about the setting to actually be like, yeah, no, I want to play in this world. So this book is one of the reasons why I am the way I am today. This is what sparked the interest. This and actually the same haul. So this book survived my house fire. About 8 or so years ago, I lost almost all of my possessions in a house fire. I'm fine, don't worry about it. But a lot of my collectibles didn't make it out. This book survived, but what did not survive was an almost complete box set of the second edition of DC Heroes. So I owned the main book. I owned the box set with all the dice and all the paper standees and all of the insets. And I bought it for like $10, not knowing that those box sets, even unsealed now, go for $300 a pop. I'm not interested in collecting it. I'm not going to spend $300 to get it. But knowing that I had that and it was destroyed in a house fire is really heartbreaking. But I got that box set and this in the same Goodwill haul, and that's what really inspired me to become a game designer today. So F's in chat. F's in chat. All right. What is slightly sexier than Tenchi Muyo? What do I have that is slightly sexier than Tenchi Muyo? I think we're going to have to jump into Kickstarted content. We are now going to get into indie press TTRPGs. And this one feels a little bad. I'm bringing it up as unsexy only because the final product is very, I don't want to call it amateur because it feels bad, but it's obviously not a professional product, right? Like this is a pamphlet that was made in someone's living room. Lackluster is a good way of wording it. So this is Grinderbin's Mobile Market of Ridiculous Magic Items by Jesse Galena. This was something that I kickstarted, I want to say a year and a half ago, this is done by a mutual I have on Twitter. They've posted some stuff to itch.io. For those of you who were in my Digimon Butterfly Blue testing phase, do you remember when I was trying to put effects into attacks, and I was like, here's this system agnostic supplement that has like all these different like body functions that you could like submit into your game without any dice or numbers involved. This is that person. They did a Kickstarter for this. This is a series of that's a bad page to flip to. A series of magic items that are all very specifically system agnostic. So there's no stats, there's no very specific effects. Let me read one off to you, okay? Let's see. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can't find mine because let's see. They're not in alphabetical order, unfortunately. Let's see. Let's see here. Weapons, clothing, and jewelry. Items start on page 45. I kickstarted at a level that allowed me to put an official Farmer Gata magic item in the book. I donated at a high enough level that I was able to get an actual Farmer Gata object in the book. I want to go to page 45. Where is it? I know, right? Each object has a description, flavor text for how the fictional seller, Grinderbin himself, describes it, as well as the ingredients used to make it. Here it is. So on page 47, you can actually buy the PDF of this still if you want, is Farmer Gata's Bell of Cheer. I tried so hard to get them. Please zoom in on my face properly. Hi, thank you, camera. I tried so hard to make sure it was an actual cowbell, but the art they had the rights to was kind of limited in that respect. So here's the magic item, Farmer Gata's Bell of Cheer. Description: a sweet-tasting cowbell that has a 50-50 chance to improve or worsen a creature's disposition towards you whenever you ring it. Quote, give this jolly bell a jangle, and the creature that hears it has a 50-50 chance of finding the ringer annoying or charming. Not a bad way to get a friend to back you up in a fight either, assuming they don't suddenly think you deserve a beating. Amazing. The special ingredients to make one requires air blown through a wind chime, a kiss from a dairy cow, and the twang from a broken guitar string. Those are the 3 objects you need to craft, to enchant a Farmer Got a Bell of Cheer. So every item in this book is in that same vein. It has the physical description, some flavor text describing it, and then the magical components needed to make one yourself in case you have crafting. And these are, so let's see, this is the Carnivorous Cloak. Causes a seed to appear in the palm of your hand that, when thrown, morphs into a killer plant of a random variety, but only towards someone who is being rude behind your back. So it only activates when you throw the seed at someone who's secretly an asshole to you and you don't know about it. There's the Party Time Anklet, an absolutely tasteless anklet that magically attracts people who like to party whenever the clock hits 12. So this is just a whole bunch of these really cool sounding magic items. No stats, no specific system attached to it, just flavor. And it's really good. Now, why do I say this is unsexy? As you may have noticed, well, the book itself, the pages aren't cut straight. This is literally just paper that has been stapled together. The seam is kind of loosey, you know? I think this is great because of how flavorful it is, but I kind of regret buying a physical copy of it. This would be much better as a PDF to scroll through. They did offer physical cards so that you could like hand a card with the item to your player. I didn't have that much money at that point in time. I actually probably should have gone for the cards over the book. This is, I feel like, and this feels like a nitpick, like an asshole-ish nitpick. I feel like their next Kickstarter will have a more solid product attached to it because this was their first Kickstarter and it kind of shows. So if you want the PDF, Jesse Galena, Grinderbin's Mobile Market of Ridiculous Magic Items. I believe it's on DM's Guild. I know it's on itch.io. So definitely check that out. There we go. Okay. What is sexy above that? We're getting into the point where they're all sexy, and I'm having a hard time describing it. I think sexy above that is going to have to be my newest book. The newest book that I didn't get secondhand. Okay? Which is this. High Magic Fantasy by Houston Hare, specifically for the Fate system. For those of you who don't know, it's my wife laughing out there. For those of you who don't know, Fate is a narrative-based role-playing system. You can role-play anything in Fate because it uses a narrative dice system and tags. So instead of, let's see here. So instead of rolling a number, right? Instead of rolling on a stat, you roll with your tags, and you can tag things like a weapon you have, the armor you're wearing, and these tags are like descriptive words, right? So theoretically, say you had a laser pistol, right? And the tags on it are electronic, battery operated, just various descriptive words that describe the object you're using. You can tap one of those tags to roll extra dice or roll different kinds of dice in order to alter fate to be in your favor. And these dice aren't numerical, they have symbols on them, and each symbol means something different. I'm so glad to not be in the 2000s anymore because we all know what a book called High Magic Fantasy would have looked like circa 2005. Yeah, exactly. Fate is a very narrative system that isn't limited by genre. Normally when you have like a game like D&D or you have a game like Starfinder, the math involved to make the fantasies of those genres work are very specific. That's why people have a hard time converting other genres into D&D, because D&D, not to get on a D&D rant, but D&D is designed to fulfill a very specific kind of medieval fantasy. once you start throwing laser pistols and lightsabers in there, it gets funky very quickly. Fate avoids this because anything can be a narrative tag, even things that don't normally go together. Theoretically, you could play a Space Ranger in the same campaign setting as Merlin the Wizard, because all of your stuff just has tags on it, and those tags are not inherently better or more strong than others. Narrative tags are really cool. I myself do not like Fate. And that sounds ridiculous for someone who's just going on and on about it. Fate has a lot of strong points to it, but it's very much a homebrew it yourself, the TTRPG. It requires a lot of effort from the DM to have the game work as intended while also allowing your players to immerse themselves in the fantasy world. And in my experience, and this is going to be inflammatory, but in my experience, a lot of players who are people who try to convert people into Fate bring them from D&D. And D&D, again, not to get on a rant about D&D, is a very DM-heavy game where the players just need to know the math that they have to roll, and even then, not even that sometimes, and the DM handles the rest. Fate requires the player to think and use the tags in front of them. It's not just adding 2 to a d20 roll. It requires a little more effort. So a lot of people bounce off Fate very quickly. So what happens is that Fate ends up being a system that is meant for narrative gamers, but it's not marketed to narrative gamers. And the people who really like Fate will not shut the fuck up about Fate. I find that I don't need Fate. I don't need narrative tags to do the same thing as narrative tags. For those who play in my Steel and Spirit game, oh, that sounds about right. Yeah, okay, there we go. Thank you for telling me that I'm right. I appreciate that. Oh, good, positive feedback. Fuck yeah. But no, so for me, the mechanical tools that Fate gives players, I take it back. The narrative tools that Fate gives players are like training wheels for me specifically. I don't need them. I can accomplish more or less the same thing in the games that I already run, just because of how I am as a GM, how I am as a player. Whereas people who are really into Fate, for them, their eyes are open for the first time. It's a new religion for them. If you meet someone who unironically says you can play anything in Fate, go in expecting them to just verbally vomit and gush about the system and just kind of go, yep, yep, There are other components to Fate that I am glossing over and I am skipping over because I'm not deep enough into Fate to really appreciate them, that other games use fairly well. I know Blades in the Dark uses some aspects from Fate with clocks and whatnot, and clocks are great for some players, not great for others. Again, not to imply that I am somehow above and beyond these game design concepts. It's more like I am at a point in my game design and my game playing career where I don't need those concepts. My style has evolved to not require them. You can, doesn't mean you should. Exactly. There you go. So I got this book, and I'm saying it's more sexy than Grinderbins because it is more of a professional product, but it's still unsexy because I spent $5 on this. And you want to know how thick it is? It basically disappears. There are, not including the advertisements in the back, which I must stress, the advertisements in the back are only on one side. So here's an advertisement. Here's what the back of it looks like. Blank. This is the back of another advertisement. It's also blank. So without the advertisements, this is 18 pages long if you don't count the cheat sheet in the back, which just reiterates all of the information that was on the other 18 pages. It's very, very thin. This is the meeting that could have been an email, right? And I bought it through Amazon. I would have willingly spent $5 for this on itch.io, right? If I knew it was going to an indie designer. This is supposedly a larger press product that they're selling via Amazon, and I'm like, I regret this purchase. I regret it. So what is this actually, right? Again, I mentioned that Fate uses narrative tags. Theoretically, you can have multiple characters from multiple different genres existing in the same setting, the same game, because of how narrative tags work. This very specifically is meant to be a bridge between people who are used to set spell lists in D&D and people who like to play Fate because of the narrative control it gives. It allows you to have some rules to your magic while still not like turning Fate into D&D. So what I do like about this is that there are rules. There's tonal stuff in here about how to make your magic in Fate feel like D&D magic without limiting it like D&D magic. So there's the very beginning, there's a concept of permission and cost. There needs to be a narrative explanation for why your character can cast magic and what it costs them to cast magic. First page of the book, it specifies that there has to be a cost. It also specifies what kind of skill you need to use in order to cast certain magic. So, for example, a divine patron, right? Common titles: acolyte, priest, cleric. This is your like god-esque magic, your religious magic. Casting skill is listed as empathy or careful. I don't know if those are actual stats in Fate, but I don't imagine they are. So this is more of like being like, so this is like the tone of how and why you can cast your magic. This is the kind of person who should be able to cast magic. It's all more flavor and fluff, but it gives a GM and the players bones on which to build the fantasy of their game. Not just my guy shows up and has all these bad magic powers. It gives context that you're meant to loosely follow. There is rules for setting difficulties. There's rules for potency, pushing magic beyond what it's intended to do. There's basic ideas for magic, for like items that can that work like magic. We got a cool dragon sword and a potion here, so it has the vibe very well. My favorite part, and what I plan on using from this book, is the disciplines. This is the Fate book. Yes, this is the Fate book. The disciplines section, all right? It lists a bunch of magic disciplines: air, death, earth, energy, fire, illusion, life, mind, nature, sight, teleport, transform, and water. And each of these has a brief description of what these disciplines are kind of about. So fire, you have mastered the control of fire. You can create fire out of thin air and use it to attack your enemies. You can animate fire into a creature capable of following commands, starting at a good difficulty. That's it. That's the entire discipline. The death, mind, sight magic, it gives you just enough mechanical information to be like, this is what you can do. Go forth. As a GM, if a player wanted to come up with their own magic system, actually, now that I think about it, I have run for a player who invented their own, who is playing their own OC from their webcomic, which has its own unique magic system in a game that is loosely based around the Fantasyland sort of D&D-esque fantasy world. Yeah, Jin knows this. So we actually have had to have a player who's invented their own unique brand of magic and talk about the cost, talk about the potency, talk about how effective this is meant to be in the world while also balancing it so their character isn't overpowered. I don't need this. I'm going to use it as a loose guide going forward. I might skim it every once in a while, but this is very much a... This is for people who are trying to get the vibe of D&D and Fate, and they don't know how to go about it. And I don't find this very sexy. But I mean, it for what it is, it does its job fine. I keep wanting to put it in my right hand because it's my dominant hand, but chat's over here. But also when I open the book up, I naturally want to hold it in my left hand so I can't move chat about. So there's that. There's that. How are we doing? Are we entertained? Are we enjoying ourselves? I'm sorry about the state of the camera. This is actually the old webcam from Coop Cakes. This is actually the old tall webcam. We are entertained. Good. You cannot wait to see the most sexy book. I am debating so hard on what the most sexy book is because we're reaching the point where the books are starting to get sexy, guys. They're starting to get sexy. And it's going to be really hard for me to pick. I have 3 books that I think are mid-tier in the sexy-esqueness. So I'm going to choose the least most sexy based on usability. All right, we're going to add a subcategory in here, okay? As for how useful it is to me as a person, this is the least middlest sexy book I own. All right? And I actually did a TikTok on this just very recently. So this is technically more of a magazine, but the way it's printed does not feel like a magazine. This is The Rifter. The Rifter was a series of publications by Palladium Books back in I just realized, God, and I have the same mic on. It was on Amazon for cheap, okay? Do you have the same snowball mic? I actually should really upgrade my mic next. What's fun about sexy is that you define it by anything. This book is sexy because it has the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the cover. So The Rifter was a publication that was on the shelf with the other TTRPG books back in the, actually, when was this one printed? Let me make sure I have the timeline right. This was printed 1999. 1999. Oh, you already have a fancy mic from a stream fundraising. Nice. Good for you. I'll want some recommendations because this guy's been doing me well. Is it Rifty? Yes and no. So what The Rifter was a publication of various, I don't want to call it homebrew, they're auxiliary rules by the designers at Palladium, specifically for their various published settings. Palladium was not your grandpa's TTRPG developer. They did like the rough stuff, the bloody stuff, the gory stuff. Like this was the cool stuff, and also they had the rights to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They were darker, they were edgier, and I don't have an opinion one way or the other on their games. I've never really looked much into their games outside of their turtle stuff. It was very of the times. It was very, I don't want to say second edition D&D, but it was like it was very much what the people of that era looked at D&D for, found lacking, and then wrote on their own. It was kind of like, it wasn't actually breaking any boundaries in terms of game design. It was what everyone else who wasn't D&D was doing, but it was also doing it in its own special kind of way. You know, you can't fault them for that. I will say that once they stopped paying for the Ninja Turtles license, they leaned very heavily into making their not TMNT setting after the bomb very sexy, and not in a good way. In sort of I am a middle-aged man in 1999 who thinks this is what sexy stuff is. I'm not even going to describe it. I'm told that more recent publications in that franchise is better, but it's still very much that super edgy sort of libertarian 1980s era libertarian style of edge that is nostalgic for some, but really gross for others. Let's put it this way, okay? The first edition of the TMNT role-playing game from 1986 had to be removed from shelves and replaced with a second edition where the only real change was that they did not put various mental illnesses under a section that was very, very ableist. They removed that language because it was too much for the 1980s. Yeah. Now, to be fair, right? The book they wrote was not for the TV show of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. For those of you who don't know, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was actually a parody comic about how dark and edgy comic books were. It was specifically meant to be satire of being too dark and too edgy. So naturally, Palladium was the right developer to make a tabletop role-playing game based about it. And what's funny is that this book specifically, right, it has homebrew and like lore for like all of this is their like, space setting. Actually, on the back it says, let's see here. This includes stuff from Bioborgs, the Ars No Territory and Mercenaries, the Palladium Fantasy Adventures, the Nightbane Astral Plane and Powers, the Lone Star comic strip by Perez, Knights of the Dinner Table. They had all these settings, right? The Turtles are on the cover, not because there's homebrew in this book for the Turtles game, but the very first article is about how they're no longer printing TMNT stuff. And this so this entire article, I'm not going to read it to you in full, but this entire article is about them complaining that once the TV show came out and the Turtles were kidified, no one was buying their books anymore because the over-the-top edgy satire Turtles were now kid stuff. This guy literally manages to complain about them damn kids. They ruined Ninja Turtles right as the Turtles were reaching the height of their popularity in the United States. So they decided to no longer pay for the Turtles license right when the Turtles were about to make it big. Because they fully believed that the kiddie Saturday morning vibe of the cartoon meant that teenagers wouldn't want to play the role-playing game because their baby siblings were the ones watching Turtles, and Turtles were no longer cool anymore. This was this was published in fucking 1999. No, the Turtles were still very popular. They should have continued making content for it, but no, alas. As for the usefulness of this book, I've read through the original Turtles book is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, and it is an interesting book specifically for how it uses mutagen powers. Instead of an experience system, playing through adventures would net you an amount of points. I think they're mutation points or MP, and you could spend those points in between adventures, in between episodes of your Turtles campaign to further mutate your character. Now, it wasn't like you could theoretically drop a whole bunch of mutation points and sprout wings, right? But what was more likely was you would get a handful of these points and you would start slowly sinking them into what you wanted to mutate. So if you wanted a 5-fingered hand, but your base animal was a turtle that only had 3, you would have to spend so many points to start growing like a vestigial limb, and you would have that vestigial limb for your next adventure until you got enough MP to mutate it fully into a 4th finger on your hand. And this was true for all parts of your body. If you wanted extra legs, if you wanted to have better eyesight, you had to pay for each step of the mutation process, which, considering that the game was supposed to be like gross out, dark and edgy, like, my mutated turtle is like all gross and stuff and it kills people and gores them and I'm a ninja. Like it absolutely makes sense. When I first read that, the Yoho PDF, by the way, I did not think I wanted to play it by any means. I was in awe of how novel the concept was. Right? Because like even in the 80s and 90s, class-based systems were kind of like the norm. So to see this point-based progression where not only was it a point-by skill thing, but also every single session, you and everyone else who you play with would see the characters slowly changing over time. That's really cool. Not something I'd want to recreate, but really something that I enjoyed about reading the book. So that's my least middleist sexy book. Yas! One of the things that I love about tabletop role-playing games, specifically older games, is that the design is always very much of the time and place it was made in. And because the systems, like, you can read Shakespeare and miss some context, right? As for why Shakespeare wrote something the way it did. There are jokes that we don't understand in Shakespeare plays because we don't have the context of the time and place it was written, right? With TTRPG systems specifically, most of it is math. You cannot dissect everything about the culture that the game was written in, but because math is math, seeing how they use math and how that math ends up being translated into a play table really says a lot about what kind of fantasy they were trying to create at the table and how they used numbers to make that feeling happen to them. It's very, very fascinating from a design standpoint, reading old design stuff. All right. The middleist of the middleist sexy books that I have feels like it should be more sexy to me than it is, but alas, it is not. And it is, let's see, let me just make sure I'm reading this right. Yeah, it's Fat Goblin Games. This is the tiny D6 compatible setting guide, The Fungal Kingdom, by Fat Goblin Games. Fat Goblin Games is a imprint that usually does print-on-demand books via DriveThruRPG. So this is a print-on-demand book. Print-on-demand is a service that DriveThruRPG, which is owned by Wizards, or it has the Wizards is like the official guys who use DriveThruRPG, and DM's Guild. DM's Guild is for Dungeons and Dragons content specifically. DriveThruRPG is the exact same company, but it's for non-D&D content. And a print-on-demand is a service where if you want a physical book of a PDF that they sell, they will print it for you, and they'll mail it to you. Just bam. Normally, how printing works in the TTRPG market is the creators order in bulk so they can get the lowest price possible for getting in bulk printing, and then they sell off copies one by one to recoup that cost. That's the most cost-effective way of doing it. Print on demand is this was the only Fungal Kingdom book printed at that point in time, just the one book, because they could afford to do that because there was the coast and they had a lot of money. So instead of printing off a massive amount of books that may not sell, they just have the PDF, they sell the PDF, and then occasionally someone says, hey, I want this in print, so they can afford to just print a single book off. The Fungal Kingdom is, as you would expect, it's let me see if I can't find the right yeah, it's Mario. It's just Mario. All right, it's just Mario with the numbers filed off. And this setting guide is specifically the Tiny D6 system, which is it's a rules light dungeon crawling system. Here's a man in a fursuit. That's great. It's not a bad system. If I hadn't gotten into Steel and Spirit when I did, I feel like Tiny D6 would have been my bread and butter. Oh, look, here's a legally distinct Danky Kang, who definitely doesn't look terrifying. It's it's a fine setting guide, right? It includes an adventure, which is traveling through 7 lands to find the princess who's been taken by, what do they call him in this? Is it King Turtle? No, the Turtle King. So here's the Turtle King, right? Here's the Turtle King. So the journey through 7 lands in order to find the princess and defeat the Turtle King, right? And there are stats in here for all the stuff you'd expect. The turtle troops, the buzzy shells, the man-eating plants. Oh, hello, darling.
Hello, I want to show your stream something.
You want to show my stream something? Okay. Everyone say hello to my beautiful
I
wife.
want to show them my new favorite snack.
Oh my god, do you have to?
No, I don't have
No,
to.
get in here. Get in here. Let me move the chat over so they can see your face.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to show Mocha. My new favorite snack. Where's the camera?
The camera's right here.
Show them, Stinky.
Right here. Pickles, but they're moonshine pickles. They're pickles and fucking moonshine.
It's delicious.
They're too much for me. I can't fucking take it. You just drink the moonshine. Okay. No. Absolutely. I love you. Get away. Shoo. Shoo.
No kiss.
No kiss. You smell of moonshine pickles.
You're really gonna deny me a kiss? See, this is what it feels like when you eat onions.
Yes. Yes, it does. You'd think you'd have some sympathy for me. Just drink the moonshine. That's what it's there for. Exactly. Give me your cheek, please, because you smell of moonshine pickles. Mwah. Yeah.
You guys, he's being so mean to me.
Get out of my enclosure. Shoot. Everyone's like, goodbye, my beautiful... I panicked for a second. Ugh, you smell of pickles.
Oh, you smell stinky.
I love you.
I love
All right. Did the camera... There we go. All right, so, as I was saying, move chat back over here. Fantastic. All right, so, yes, 7 lands. You fight a princess. You fight a princess and save a Turtle King. No, it has all the enemies you'd expect, but, and this is a very important but, aside from giving you rules, giving you stats for Tiny D6, right? The setting doesn't do a whole lot. As someone who really loves Mario, I was excited to see someone make a cohesive setting using the framework of the Mario world. Instead, what I got, I don't want to use the phrase half-ass, I'm going to go back to lackluster, was a lackluster mishmash of stuff that people who have played Mario think is cool about Mario, and specifically the first 3 games, right? Like, this is very specifically like the arcade games, Mario 1, 2, and 3, just smushed here, and that's it. And it's fine, it's serviceable, but I feel like I would have a better time. I think people who want to play a Mario-themed game would be much better off just going to the Mario wiki and skimming a few pages and then making up numbers themselves, right? Like, this does not do a good job of scratching the itch for Mario fans who want a Mario TTRPG setting, and it also will not scratch the itch of someone who sees this and goes, oh, this is an interesting looking setting I want to run a game in. There's not enough in here for it to be a full cohesive setting. It could have just been a single isekai. This could have been an email. Right? This is the meeting that could have been an email. The adventure itself is very bare bones, just the basic stuff. You have your grasslands, you have your haunted house, you have your Donkey Kong jungle, you have your castle, and it's just rooms with a couple of themed enemies in it and maybe a power up here and there, and that's it. For the Tiny D6 system, like, I wouldn't run this as a setting. I'd take the stuff in it and put it in another system, another setting for Tiny D6, but this, nah. What's interesting, though, is that this is the most recent version. Tiny D6 is the most recent version of this guide. They also have the same thing for Pathfinder and 5th edition, okay? So, on some level, I understand that they wrote this as a product. They wrote this intending to swap out the stats and abilities to match whatever game system was most profitable at the time. So it makes sense that like the lore stuff and the setting are lackluster because they're trying to make it so they can just easily fit it to any game system out there to like get that SEO, right? Like I could have got this with 5th edition. I could have got this with Pathfinder. I chose TinyD6 because it was a system that I wasn't used to, that I had read some. But also I yo-hoed the PDF for the Pathfinder one. It's not much better. It's not much better. There's more art in it, but it's not much better. So yeah, that's the Fungal Kingdom. I actually got this when I was planning my Mario TTRPG one-shot like over a year ago, and I ended up not using any of it. So yay! But it was still fun. It was still fun to skim through and be like, okay, that's kind of cute. That's kind of cute. How they could skip under the copyright very, very neatly. Okay, now for the most sexy of my middleist sexy books. How long have we been streaming? We've been going for only an hour and 19 minutes. Okay. Normally, I would go stone-faced while I'm playing Farmergata. So I'd be over here playing Minecraft, and I'd be doing the voice. Like, I'd be doing Farmergata, like, as a voice. Like, you'd be able to hear me. But, like, for the most part, my facial expressions would not be I'm very animated because I don't have to do that when I'm not on camera. So, like, I can feel the misuse of my facial muscles being like, the fuck are you doing? Drink some water. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the water. All right. For the least sexy, or the most sexy of my middleist sexy books, we unfortunately have to go to another indie press, another indie designer who I am mutuals with on Twitter, and I adore them. So hopefully they never see this. They don't have to know that I think their book is the sexiest of the middle sexiest books I own. But Elfin Folk, the role-playing game by Adam Baffany, or Baffoni. I don't actually know how to pronounce their name. I'm too scared to ask at this point. This is a book that I lost my mind over when I first got it. I didn't kickstart it. I don't know if it was crowdfunded, but I do know that the original print run was limited. They no longer sell these in physical anymore. You can still get the PDF on itch.io. And what Elfin Folk is about, Elfin Folk is actually, it's very well designed. It's very pretty on the inside. They have this really nice paper texture going on. The layout was done by Francita Soto, and the graphic design as well. The art is by Ashley Ireland, edited by Daniel Arsenal. And let's see here. Yeah, this is not a Kickstarter. This is just various people who play tested it. So Elfin Folk has a lot of good art in it. Elfin Folk is like Borrowers, the TTRPG. It's about playing tiny people in a big world, and there's a lot of really good art. Like, here's some elfin folk that are like harvesting individual blades of grass, but they're huge to them. Actually, I just noticed there's a cat in the upper corner, by the way. The art is beautiful. The actual game text is a very simple step-by-step of walking you through creating an elfin folk character, and it focuses more on making a character before you make stats, that a character that fits in the world you're going to be playing in. So there's a lot of talking about the tone of the book is a person verbally walking you through making a character and playing the game. And I really like that because TTRPG is very much an oral tradition, and a lot of game texts focus on being the rules. Like, this is the operating manual. This is step 1, step 2, step 3, as opposed to how tabletop role-playing games are actually shared interpersonally, where it's more of you're being told, you're like a story and guided through the process of creating a character and playing the game. And the rules are meant as reference material. The tone of this book is very much a friend is telling me how to play elfin folk. And I really, really appreciate that. Here's an elfin folk character. I don't know if they have an official name, but there's a lot of good art in this book. The layout is fantastic. The graphic design is on point. I was absolutely in love with this book when I first got it. Now, why is it in the middleist sexy section? That is because, and I hate to do this, you'll notice maybe that for the size of this book, the text is fairly large. And this is a problem because this book is also not including the final page, which is a character sheet, 38 pages long. For the price that I paid for it, that's not a bad deal. But in terms of this being a system with fancy art and fancy graphic design, this is a very small system for the amount of effort that went into its production. I love how it looks. I love how it reads in tone, but the actual rules of the game are kind of lacking. The dice system they use is a D10 system. A D10 system roll under. So if you have a higher stat in something, your chances of succeeding are greater because, like, say you're rolling a D10 and your stat is 7. Any number from 1 to 7 counts as a success, as opposed to a 3, where any number from 1 to 3 is a success. So it's fairly intuitive. Brisket, can you not pull? Okay, sure, just pull my blanket down. All right, you get the Blair now, I guess, because Brisket's an asshole. Hi, Brisket. The dice mechanic is fine. The making a character first is fine. The GM advice for how to introduce contests and resolve issues is fine, but that's kind of it. There's no world lore. There's no list of like borrower inventions. There's artwork of a character. Let me see if I can't find it. There's artwork of a character, right, who they have what appears to be a spool of thread attached to a harness on their back, which they put fishing wire on and tied a fishing hook to, right? That's cool. That's borrower technology. That's using things they find around the human house to make stuff to make adventuring easier. There's no guide, there's no examples of this outside of that character art. I feel that's a very missed opportunity. Let me just real quick focus on the book and then come back to my face, please. I'm over here, whatever. There's combat in this game too, and it's not good. It very much feels like combat was added because during playtesting, one of the players said, "What happens if I want to stab the cat?" And then the developer had to be like, "Well, I guess we need combat rules now." It doesn't feel like this game system was made with actual combat in mind. There's not enough rules to make it feel like, this is the Elfin Folk combat system, but there's also too many rules for me to feel like when I play Elfin Folk, I just make up how combat works so that makes most sense to me in the moment. You know, like it needed to bake a bit longer. For the price, it's a good book. I'm not saying it's bad, but as a system, I would spend more time making up the setting and the stuff about playing as a borrower that I find interesting. I would have to make that up myself as opposed to it being part of Elfin Folk. So we're now out of the less than sexy area. We're now entering sexy territory, everyone. I hope you're still engaged and enjoying this. Let's see. What is... Oh man, they're all getting pretty sexy. They're all getting pretty sexy. Let me do the obvious gimme. The obvious gimme in the lot. And that would have to be the Konosuba TRPG, the official Gata Doesn't Read GT fanfic, and it shows. What does that mean? Tegan, do I want to know what that means? I don't think I want to know what that means. Never mind. Whenever I don't mess with my VTuber model, and I say, I'm smiling on the inside, or I'm smiling on the outside, but I'm not on the inside. This is the face that I'm making at my screen. Tegan? Madam Somerset, watch yourself. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so this is the only TRPG that I currently own. And I have gone on rants on Twitter. Actually, I have a Twitter thread of my first impressions of this game where I marveled over the design choices, not because they're good. This is everything that was published in the Japanese release of the Konosuba TRPG. All of the art inside, all of the rules, everything that was in the original book is here, just translated into English and relayed out to make it somewhat readable. There are some issues with the layout, where because English is a very different language than Japanese, a lot of the graphic design doesn't look like it fits, obviously, like Japanese is, up and down, up and down. And then these are the spell cards on this page here. You'll notice how much empty space there is. And also how the text doesn't really feel like it's properly aligned. There's no images. I imagine that in the original Japanese, these looked and felt better to use. But it's just an interesting RPG. The problem with a Konosuba TRPG is the fact that this game, as written, is about going on generic fantasy adventures in a generic fantasy world. Konosuba's entire point is that it is very much that, but the characters you follow are the worst people in that world, and they get into shenanigans. There is very little mechanically in this game that encourages that style of play. As a matter of fact, a lot of the GM advice is good GM advice for preventing your players from being murder hobos, when I feel like a Konosuba game is where you would want your players to be asshole murder hobos so they can experience consequences for those actions. There is one thing that I really do enjoy. There is, in the section where you choose what kind of creature your character is, right? It has all of the various characters types that you can have. I'm trying to find the right page here. Let's see here. This is the quick start. Okay, here we go. They have origin tables, okay? So you start off determining what your origin is. So you have the reincarnated person, where you're isekai, because Konosuba is an isekai. So the first option is, are you an isekai person? Are you a native inhabitant? Are you specifically from the Crimson Magic clan? Are you, then you have a circumstance, you have a goal. The reincarnation table is, of all things, a D66 table. So you're supposed to roll 2d6s, I think, and then combine them to make a number. So the origin table for being reincarnated, the first entry is simply listed as truck. By another's accident or your own bad luck, you were nearly run over. But when you came to, you were somewhere you'd never seen before, sitting in a simple chair. This is a table for determining how you were isekai'd, and the first entry is fucking truck-kun. Gunshot. You were shot to death, and now you're in an isekai. Smartphone. You were on your phone, got a weird message, press yes, and you were sucked into the phone. A dream. You've dreamt of the world before, but one day you woke up and you were still in the dream. Video game, fog, you wish on a shooting star, you fell down a hole, a voice from above called to you and you agreed, you were struck by lightning. The last one is simply beaten. You were beaten to death, and that's your isekai origin. All right? That's fucking good shit. It's a good fucking table. I love it. The native inhabitant and Crimson Clan ones are not as wild. The options are like, you're a hero, you're a royal, you're a knight, you're an adventurer, you're a mercenary, yada, yada, yada. You're an ex-convict, you're a civilian. Let's see here. There's a table to roll for a goal if you're the kind of player who's not really sure what you want. I mean, I can share the tables with you. Like this, they're not really copyrighted, so I don't print them and sell them or anything. Let's see here. Is there images for the races? There is not. There is not. You get various abilities based on what your starting race is. And I do know that in supplementary material, they also include race rules for some of the more exotic creatures in the Konosuba setting. I think dwarves are an option, but they're not in this book. What I find interesting is that despite being like fantasy races, it's less, because of how Konosuba works, it's less fantasy races like elf, dwarf, orc, that sort of thing, and more like you're either from here, you're not from here, or you're the weird genetically modified people that are like really part of Konosuba's setting. Like those are your three options, and all of them are still mostly human. So it's just really interesting to me how they treat them like separate races, despite them all still being the same race. They just have different abilities attached to them. They could have called something else, but they didn't. It's also a bog standard TRPG. I'm not going to get into it here, but TRPGs are designed for the culture they're aimed at. Japanese role-playing culture is very different than Western role-playing culture, and this is designed for that. It's meant for not campaign play in the same way that you would think of D&D. It's meant more of you get the people you can get together when you can get together. You go somewhere public to play this game. You talk to each other for 2 or 3 hours. You tally up that you were there and the loot you got, and then you go home and you think about how cool your character is. And that sounds similar to D&D, but it's a different culture it's made for. So the design is very much for episodic yet continuous play. The idea is that if someone new joins your table, yes, they'll be underleveled from you, but the point of the game is to play long enough to invest in your character and the world that you get to the cool stuff at the end without, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just a very different design culture. So I find it interesting. I find this sexy. It's a professional product, and I like it. So there we go. All right.
Hello,
Oh,
Derek.
hello.
Would the streamers like to?
Yes, the people would love to see baby kittens. Are you shitting me? Everyone,
Hello.
say hello to Ghost and Goblin.
This,
Hi. Hello,
this one's
Goblin. This is Goblin. Goblin is the adventurous one of the pair. Hello, how are you doing? She is not too sure about this. She is not sure about this. Oh, at all. I can't make you look in the camera, can I?
Put me down.
I can't make you look in the camera.
Here, I'll trade you.
He trade you. All right.
Ghost
You
is not as-
take the wiggly one.
Ghost is not as afraid.
Ghost is not as wiggly. Ghost, however, is a chonky wonky. Look at all of him. Look at how much there is of him. Isn't he good? Oh, look right at the camera. What a good boy. You are a star. You're made for the silver screen. Oh my gosh, yes you are. Mwah. What a sweet baby. Will you send him to Ohio?
Yes.
No, we don't
No.
airmail kitties. That's not how that works, unfortunately. They're starting to be somewhat interested in wet food. They've been sniffing it and like, oh, this smells interesting.
They haven't really eaten any yet.
They haven't eaten. Oh, once you eat that first bite, you'll
I
be
know.
hooked.
I
You'll be
know.
hooked, my friend. You're missing out.
Oh,
Uh-oh. You caught?
yeah, she gets caught a lot.
Yeah, they're very pointy.
Because I'm so baby.
They're very
the baby.
pointy. Well, thank you,
You're very welcome.
for bringing the fur balls.
They wanted to run around the living room.
Uh-huh.
So.
All right. Well, I'll make sure
Hi,
to
children.
stomp about. Thank you. Also, hi, Maru. Hi, Neb. Welcome to the stream. We are going through my TTRPG books from least to most sexy, and we've passed the halfway point. airmail them to me, to Scotland, post them to me in a lethal parcel with air holes. I will not be doing that. Thank you. They are unfortunately reaching the age where we're starting to have to think about actually adopting them out. So that's a little sad, but they're cute little guys. Okay. Let me see. What is the next sexiest book that I own? I think it would have to be Old School Stylish. Old School Stylish for Old School Essentials. For those of you who don't know, Old School Essentials is part of the OSR, the Old School Renaissance, which is an attempt to... What was the least sexy book? The least sexy book was this, the DC Heroes Hardware Handbook, which is just a list of technology that's considered cool and hip from 1987 with stats for a system that's basically unplayable in this day and age. It's a cool book that I have it. It's in good condition, but it's not sexy at all. It's not sexy at all. But no, Old School Stylish. Now, Old School Essentials is 1987. Notice it's hot as fuck. No. It's just pages and pages of text, and but yes, no. So, OSR is a design philosophy about going back to the original D&D, the original little yellow books, taking the low numbers adventuring dungeoneering and making it a little more modern. It's mostly just an excuse to have low numbers and go out and kill things and get loot. All right. However, because there is now a product, Old School Essentials, it's based off the old design philosophies of D&D without being D&D. And it's low numbers enough that you can pretty much make anything out of it. There's a number of supplements about how to further hack Old School Essentials to get the style of game you want. And Old School Stylish is very specifically meant to take a more Western-based class system and convert it into a job system a la the Final Fantasy games. So what it actually does is that it takes the stat upgrades from it takes the stat abilities and upgrades from the classes in OSE and splits them into styles. So you have battle trance, cavalry, cheerleading, and all of these have adjustments to your armor class, adjustments to your movement. They have a special ability, like Cavalry has Spur Steed. Any mount they ride moves twice as fast and can leap to 30 feet horizontally. And then it has a suggested way of learning it. The idea is that as you journey through the world, the DM will seed individuals who can teach your characters these styles. So if you want to learn a style, you have to find someone who will teach it to you, or you have to have a way of logically learning these abilities. And they're not like a long list of classes. Like instead of saying in 5th edition, you would take a homebrew writer class. You get some special abilities. You get some cool stuff you can only do with a resource, and then when you level up, you just naturally learn new things. No, it's not how that works. In order to learn something new, you have to find someone in the world to teach it to you. And then you get a little buff, one or two abilities, and there you go. There's implied mechanics for equipping a specific number of styles. This book does not assume that your play style will be a specific one. It just gives you the styles, tells you ways you could use it, and lets you go. So there's a way to convert your overall level into style slots, so you can equip multiple styles at once, but you can't equip all of them. There's alternate rules for job swapping in combat, so that you can only have one style equipped at a time. Like you magically have the outfit for a style, and then you swap from, like, say, dancer to sword fighter, and then you can use the sword fighter ability. There's rules for that. There's rules for not having any levels whatsoever if you don't want to use levels at all and just learning styles, and that's your only level of progression. There's options here for a DM to help them place styles in the world. So there's a table for style placement examples. So let's say your player wants to learn how to be a Jedi. They want to be able to move things with their mind, right? So you think, okay, so I make a Jedi style. They get a sensory ability. They get a +2 to magic casting. They get a spell that allows them to levitate something. Okay, that's sure. Why not? But you're like, well, how will they find that? There's a table here, a D20 table, no less. Love that. Where it's like, how this style is found. Option 1, it's taught on initiation into a mystery cult. Option 2, a master is locked in an imperial dungeon for their knowledge is too dangerous. So there's like inspiration here to help the DM figure out where the style should be in the world and how to make new styles that your players will want. If anyone who has... If anyone, I know that Tegan and Jenna here, Bandit, if you're here, if you've read through my Bangarang Bay game, you know exactly where I got where all that went. Like, this book is what really sparked my design interest. I'm like, oh shit, oh fuck, oh god, oh yeah. So that's very much what my currently I'm calling it Daring and Dreaming. Yeah, it totally did. Yeah, you absolutely get it. There's also tables in here for creating masters. There's a D20 table. My master is a bit eccentric. They roll a D20. Speak only in rhyme, sometime pausing for minutes at a time to think of one. Have a pet bird, they say is the real master. I'm starting to think it's true. So there's one here where he's a pervert. There's a lot of flavor of like anime tropes when you think of characters like Master Roshi, some Dragon Quest masters. You think of like the old man who like teaches you that cool technique. The Dragon Ball Z, they have the Grand Kais. There's like tweaks and weird abilities that these masters will have so that they were memorable NPCs on top of being the organization. Yeah, that would have been fun for a loop. Yeah, I wish I'd had this book ages ago. There's also stuff like there's information on starting styles. There's advanced styles. One of the things in here is how some of the styles are straight up like D&D classes, while others are abilities. So, for example, one of the classes is called Dance, right? And like a dancer would be an entire D&D class. But then there's also something called the Flying Dagger. Flying Dagger is just being able to throw swords and have it do stuff, right? That's not a class, that's a technique. So the flavor of some of these things are they're all considered the same things by this book, but like some things are like the difference between going Super Saiyan and learning the Supreme Kai Fist. Throwing swords or throwing daggers? Throwing daggers. Just being able to throw daggers real good. That's more of a technique than an entire class concept. But again, this book was written specifically by taking the base classes of old school essentials and separating all of the mechanical benefits into like subclasses. You said throwing swords and I was scared. No, throwing daggers. What's really interesting is that in the very end of the book, right? So the whole book is this white with black and gray, right? It's very utilitarian. It does what it needs to do. The last couple of pages are the secret styles. And this is printed inverted, white text on black. And these are things like calling up storms, the sainted sword, summoning dragons. There's a table for what you summon. With summoning, you call, right? You call out to another planar entity, and there's a D10 table for what answers you. There's Vritra, A giant fleshy serpent materializes, devouring the party's enemies. It then departs for the nearest settlement, eating half their population while singing the name and praises of the summoner. It will die if struck by a weapon made from the bones of a stage. There's 10 of these. And these are like forbidden styles that you can learn, but possibly have some negative effect to them. So, and on the back it has like a list of styles that actually, like, these aren't organized in any particular way. So there's magic styles, there's martial art styles, there's skill styles, and there's secret styles, right? So even if you want to be like, well, my player wants to learn magic, what magic styles do I have? And you go through the magic styles and say, okay, you know what? I think my player would actually really latch on to learning squirrel whispering from this kooky old guy up on the mountain. I think if I put that kooky old guy in front of them and said, I can talk to squirrels, they'd want to know everything this man has to tell them. So this is a very light book, right? Very light. I bought it through, what is it? It's, Exalted Funeral Press. I love Exalted Funeral. I love it so much. This has a similar issue where it's next to nothing in it, right? I had with that Fate book back there. But unlike the Fate book, this is just chock full of flavor. It is chock full of ideas. It has a bunch of tables you can roll on. Even if you're not playing old school Essentials, you could use this to inspire you for any game. Honestly, any game. I absolutely adore it. Unfortunately, the author of this book, I also follow him on Twitter, Chris Ramdeen, this is the only book they've made. This was published in 2021, so just last year this came out. And they haven't made another book since, which is honestly a goddamn shame. What is cool, though, is that this book in particular was one of the first books. So, Exalted Funeral and by extension Necrotic Gnome are two publishers that are reaching out to the indie developing scene to get physical books printed. Let's see. I believe we'll get to this later, but I believe See You Space Cowboy by Tidal Wave Games was Necrotic Gnome. Globetrotter's Guide to Greenery was Exalted Funeral. These were originally PDF exclusive games. These were available on itch.io exclusively, as far as I recall. And the publishers reached out to these people and said, hey, if you expand that just a few more pages, if you add just a bit more art, we will back you making a print run. We've seen your numbers. We've seen how the PDF sold. We think there is a future for this title in print media. And we will back you if you just make a few tweaks here or there to make it a little more worth our standards or worth our money. So they did. I don't know what actually changed between the original PDF and this, but it's just at the page count where it's like, yeah, we'll make a physical book of that. So I was very intrigued and very interested in supporting this when they announced, hey, we're doing a print run. I was like, fuck yeah, $10, fuck yeah, for a print of this, fuck yeah. It's so good. The only thing that I wish, and this is a nitpick, because again, I love this book. I think it's very sexy. The front cover has this amazing art of like a JRPG party. It feels very Akira Toriyama, very Dragon Quest-y. This is the only piece of artwork in the entire book. I don't think it needed much more than maybe a few chibis sprinkled here and there throughout the book. It's more functional than it is art, but it does what it needs to do. I just wish they'd put just a little more pizzazz into it, but it's fine. I don't regret buying this one bit. All right, we are getting down to the last 3 books, and I have a decision to make on what is the sexiest book that I own. And it's coming down to the wire, guys. It's coming down to the fucking wire. Oh, it's so hard. God forgive me. the runner-up, the top 3 sexy TTRPG books that I have in my inventory. Globetrotter's Guide to Greenery by Double Proficiency Tropical Rainforest. Now, Double Proficiency are a married pair of developers. One does the writing, one does the artwork. And they very specifically, they do guides to biomes, they do guides to locations, they do guides to plants and rock. The most recent book they're working on is called Geologist Primer, which is all about metals and ores and gemstones. I have been wanting their stuff so bad. This is the only physical book they have so far. This was Exalted Press, I believe. This is the first book that has been in physical form, and they only released it like the beginning of this year. So it's going to be some time before any of their other books. They have like 20 or more books, right, in PDF form, and they're very good. Let me walk you through it, okay? So first of all, on the very first fucking page, okay? Traveling through the tropical rainforest, they have a list of things you see, smell, hear, and touch. Sight, a waterfall amidst the trees. Sun rays piercing the tree canopy. Colorful birds frolicking in the branches. Mist rising from the ground in the morning. The very first fucking page is just all of the senses of what it's like to be in a tropical rainforest. I would pay good money for this list alone, right? With this list alone, I have all the inspiration I need to make my descriptions of a tropical rainforest pop for my players. I wish I had this for Donkey Kong Country TTRPG. Right? This is such good of a resource. It's so fucking good. It goes on to describe what the tropical rainforest is. It's known for its near constant humidity. It's hot and drenched. It's made up of various layers with various different life inside of it. It talks about the climate and soil. It talks about the anatomy of the biome with custom artwork of plants you would find there. This is just, all right. Animals you'll find. No stats, no nothing. Just descriptions and artwork. The dark understory is cooler and lonelier than the canopy, overgrown by sparse vines, ferns, non-flowering shrubs, and other plants adapted to filter light and poor soil to root in. It is an entire page of environmental threats and challenges, where it just says, here's some shit that might fuck up your party. It's got mosquitoes, leeches, worms. It talks about how it's hard to orient yourself. It talks about how it's you need proper boots and clothing, anti-venom, mosquito nets. And then, then it gets into the foliage. Look at this artwork. This is an entire page that's discussing this Cattleya plant, okay? It describes it. A cluster of brilliantly purple and pink flowers is enjoying the sunlight in the crown of an old tall tree high above your head. Thick green leaves accompany bulbous stems on a collection of light, thin roots. It then gives you flavor text. This beautiful epiphytic orchid is sought after by collectors and horticulturalists. It blooms in autumn, producing multiple flowers ranging from white to deep red. They can fetch a great price from an interested buyer if one manages to deliver them while they are still alive. This is the one plant. They have coffee. They have datura. They have vanilla. They have pitcher plants. And again, all of this artwork is done by one of the two people. Well, okay, no, this one as illustrations in the public domain, but they touch the artwork up, and I do believe they do custom artwork for the more recent ones. This is just like the big obvious plants you'd want to see. Just basic information. I could just sit and read this and like, it's so good. It's so good. And they have it for deserts. They have one for like Arctic environments. They have a whole bunch of these. Double Proficiency also, right, also does card decks of random events themed around very specific concepts. I think the most recent event deck they released was about being at a Victorian party, like a masquerade, right? What happens with the courtiers, right? What's the drama going on? What did the waiter in the corner do? What gossip did you hear? Just nothing but like 100 random events from a physical card deck you can pull and be like, oh, that happens next. It's very, very good. Double proficiency. Their logo is the rocket ship. Literally look them. Oh, I did it again. Focus on my face, please. Thank you. Honestly, look them up. I cannot recommend their stuff enough. I cannot recommend it enough. They have a physical book they just released, which is just a big book of artwork and descriptions of plants. It's a horticulturist book, not limited by location, just a thick book, a hardcover of plant stuff. They're working on the artwork for a Kickstarted Geologist Primer, which is also going to be a physical hardcover, as far as I'm aware. I can't afford to buy either of those. They're not available yet, but when they are available, I will drop $60 per book to get them. They're going to be so good. But all of their PDFs, all of their Globetrotters guides are available in PDF form, I believe, on itch.io and on DriveThruRPG. So definitely give them a look. And this you can get on Exalted Funeral or Necrotic Gnome, one of the others. I'll put links in my Discord to the various places that I buy books from. I'll verify which one, what I got from where. Also, in the background, in the back of the book, there's also curios and findings. So it's not a TTRPG book without lootables, right? So there are only 5 on here, but let me read you the first one, right? You come across abandoned ruins, overgrown with vines and vegetation. It must have been a mighty temple or a prosperous palace once. Now, nature has reclaimed it, and nothing but fragments of arches and half-buried sculptures remain to be seen. Some distance off, a beautifully carved staircase climbs the hillside to ends unknown. Climbing it, you realize the entire hill is an ancient step pyramid almost completely devoured by the rainforest. That's an entire night's adventure right there. Just right there. In a 1 to 5 roll table. Just right there. It's so good. Also, something that I didn't talk about with Old School Stylish, and I probably should, is the quality of the paper. Can we get you to focus on my face, please? Hello? Whatever. The quality of the paper. The cardstock that the covers of these are printed on are very... Actually, can I do this? Did that help? Oh, it refocused a little bit. I think it helped a little bit. The cardstock... that this is... No, this stream is about the books! Yeah, well, you won't be able to see the books. The cardstock that this is printed on is actually very fucking sturdy. They're printed in a way that even though they are obviously, like, you can see the binding, it doesn't actually sit flat, it wants to open up a little bit. They're cut in a way that the books look and feel like books. They're actually chopped properly. The paper on the inside is thinner, but also of a high enough quality that it holds the ink remarkably well. There's a difference between cover and paper where they're both obviously not the highest quality, but they're high enough quality that I hold this and I'm like, this is 20 pages. But the content and quality of the content and the book itself are like, this is worth $10. This to me is worth $10. I'm okay with paying that price for how professional this looks. Immaculate, mwah, immaculate. Okay, now we come to a problem. First of all, there is no doubt in my mind that Tidal Wave Games is going to actually show up. They follow me on Twitch now, and they're going to see me say that their book is less sexy than another book. So how about this? I'm going to show you what I think is the sexiest indie book in my... I think these two are tied for different reasons, okay? One's a system and one's an adventure. One is just immaculate, and the other one is full of racism. So you can see why I'm having a hard time deciding which one I want better. You know, I don't want to say the racist one is better, but also it's like better. You'll get it in a second. So, this is CU Space Cowboy by Tidal Wave Games. It's meant to be like a traditional D&D book, and when you pop it open, there's stuff in there that I'm like, don't like that. Okay, listen. You know that audio that's like, just a warning, don't fuck the mailman. I don't have a problem with that. Oh, you ain't seen the mailman yet. You ain't seen this book yet. You'll understand why when you see it, that despite the racism, I'm like, it's a very sexy book. Gotta, you're about to dig yourself a hole. No, you ain't seen the book yet. We'll get to it. CU Space Cowboy is listed as a sci-fi space bounty hunter jazz fusion role-playing game. Gotta gets canceled. Oh no. So CU Space Cowboy is a narrative game written by Onslaught 6 as part of Tidal Wave Games. They actually recently kickstarted a larger setting guide. It's Cowboy Bebop. It's just Cowboy Bebop, okay? I'm not even gonna, you can't, like, just look at it, okay? It's Cowboy fucking Key. The title is CU Space Cowboy. It's Cowboy Bebop. If you know and like Cowboy Bebop, this is Cowboy Bebop. It uses multiple dice. It uses spaceship. It requires you to travel between planets to go from mark to mark. It has tables for creating bounties that you want to collect. It has tables for how you want to spend your money. It has tables for just a whole bunch of stuff. And what's really fascinating is that it's a game system, and it's sort of kind of maybe it's very powered by the Apocalypse E, but instead of having classes where each class has exclusive moves, everyone has the same moves, and they're called breaks, right? This 2-page spread is don't say that. I have something to hear that's not on the sexy scale that I'm going to show you guys. This is every move in the game. They're called breaks. So there's ambush someone, surprise someone with your physical presence. You roll the dice. On a 10+, you get the drop on them and advantage on the next break. So each individual move has a small description. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 24 moves that you can do in this game, and each of them have 3 possible outcomes based on how well you roll. And that seems like a lot, but again, this is everything. This is everything. You just put this in front of you. You have all the options. You think, what I want to do in this situation? Oh, there's a break that relates to that. I'll do that. It's what I love about Powered by the Apocalypse games. It's very much, Monster of the Week is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. Yes. Minus the class system. There is some differences in how the dice works and how the world building works. If they slapped Powered by the Apocalypse on this, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But knowing what is and isn't in this game from traditional PBTA games, I understand why they didn't. If you like PBTA, you'll like this. If you played, say, I'm trying to think, what's the mouse one? It's not Mouse Ritter. If you played any of the big TTRPG games for Powered by the Apocalypse and they didn't really click with you, I think this is still a good one to use. What really gets me is that they include setting information, right? So world building is a full page of design stuff where it's like, listen, if you want the vibe of this game to come across correctly, these have to be objectively true. And here's what they are. Every player character, unless otherwise stated, is a 7 out of 10 or above in terms of physical attractiveness. That's a rule in this book. It's like, listen, guy, you're in space and you're hot. That's the point of the game, okay? The game takes place in the mid-23rd century. Bam. Well, it's because it's Cowboy Bebop. It's emulating Cowboy Bebop. So it's like, all right, there you go. Consumer technology has stalled out around the mid-1990s. CRTVs, blocky cell phones that have limited smartphone uses, bulky laptop computers, etc. Like right there, like if you want this game to feel like Cowboy Bebop, these are the rules you have to go. There are no ray guns, space lasers, or lightsabers. There are no alien species. Also, my favorite, the final rule of world building is that ownership or trade in cryptocurrency means you are worth more dead or alive. This game was written in like 2021. It came out in 2022. So they very specifically included a rule that if you play this game, you can't like NFTs. Get fucked if you like NFTs. I love this shit. I love this shit. All right? So those are the world building rules, okay? But then you get to the setting. Okay? So this is setting. This is setting. Each of these black boxes are another planet. So let's read Mercury. It has the size. It tells you how many days are in a cycle. It tells you population. Extremely hot and humid. Terraformed into rural areas and farmland. Production is not going very well. Bounties rarely travel here. Any equipment or fuel purchased here has a 10% increase due to the difficulty in transport to the remote planet. That's all the information on the planet Mercury. You can go to any planet in the solar system to track after your mark, to get resources. This is the entire solar system right here. We got the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Luna, Ceres, an asteroid belt, Ganymede, Jupiter, so on and so forth, right? All of these individual planets have 1 to 2 paragraphs of setting information and basic statistics about how many people are there, how long the days were, and how big the planet actually physically is. Everything else is up to you. Is there a casino? There can be. Is there like a bunch of warehouses that are shipping children out of? There can be. The marks you're going after can be anyone doing any crime anywhere in the solar system, and the game is about going there, dealing with the locals, finding the guy, and bringing them in for your payday. And I think this game is it does what it needs to do and gets out of the way. The mechanics don't try to replicate... Okay, how to word this? When creating a fiction, fulfilling a fantasy in TTRPG, there's two ways to go about it, right? One is mechanical support from the dice and the math. You attempt to recreate the scenario of the fantasy by using the mechanics. So for lasers and feelings, okay? The mechanics don't include rules for laser damage or for rolling a certain number to hack a computer. No, your options are lasers and feelings. Because Star Trek has never been about the nitty-gritty how the science fiction stuff works. It's been about you're in space. When you have a lasers problem, your inertial dampeners are on the fritz, whatever that means. Or it's feelings, where you're interacting with someone and the interpersonal conflict is what makes the Star Trek episode interesting. The fantasy of Star Trek is the technology matters whenever it needs to matter, otherwise it's magic, and feelings are like the entire point of it, right? You don't need to have extra rules for having a conversation go well or for fixing the inhibitor flux, because that's the point of Star Trek, okay? That's an example of mechanics supporting the fantasy. Alternatively, a game like this, the mechanics are just powered by the apocalypse moves. And yes, the moves are flavored, but that flavor is what gives the game its sense of being, right? The math doesn't have anything to do with it, right? They could have made it a D20 system if they wanted to, as long as the results table matched up with their moves. Like adding all that flavor stuff in a digestible and easily to remember, like You're hot. You're going after criminals to get money. Fuck cryptocurrency. The planet is hot and there's farms on it. Go and have an adventure. That's all it needs to do. The fantasy is in the flavor, not in the mechanics. And I really like this. I really like this. Would I hack it to do a different genre? No. Would I write a similar system with a similar design philosophy to deliver information quick and fast and get you out the door? Possibly. If I were still into Powered by the Apocalypse. I have moved on. It's no longer new to me. So that's Sea of Space Cowboy. They just 6 months ago, they kickstarted a full setting guide for a Las Vegas style planet. Instead of literally whatever the next game is gonna suck compared to this. You ain't seen it yet. Hold your horses. You ain't seen the guy yet. Whoa. The sexiest game I have is The Dark of Hot Springs Island, along with its supplementary guide, a field guide to Hot Springs Island. So this is a book this is like a proper $60 book. I got it on sale. This is a second printing, and this is actually new cover artwork. You can see a demon. Oh, that's a whole butt on there. I forgot. That's a sex slave. Twitch, I'm sorry. It's not a real butt. It's a drawing of a blue person's butt. I'm sorry. Okay? I forgot about that. Yeah, that's the problem. This is why it's sexy. Gotta look at that butt. Look at that butt on the gotta what the hell. Okay, let me explain. I didn't know there were slaves in it when I bought it, for one. I did know that it's meant to be a not traditional D&D campaign, but it's meant to be in that vein of an adventure. This wasn't the original cover. The original cover had the skull and crossbones thing in gold foil. Okay? So sue me. Actually, honest to God, I saw the Kickstarter with the new art. I didn't actually look at it full size. So I said, oh, cool Demon Man. All right. And then I got it. I'm like, oh, that blue blur at the bottom was a butt. Oh, so there's that. So The Dark of Hot Springs Island is a piratical adventure on the titular Hot Springs Island. It's a hex crawl, with a whole bunch of cool, neat stuff in every single hex. Hex crawls for me are kind of like not my white whale, titular, thanks, are kind of like my, not my white whale, it's my Paper Mario game, but like I always want to run hex crawls, and I put so much effort into trying to run a good hex crawl, and in my games inevitably stop being a hex crawl, simply because the systems that I play don't naturally lend themselves to the hex crawl mentality. So, this, let me show you real quick. Here's some of the coolest artwork. The DM's into hexagons and of squares. Guard sees him. This book is full of amazing ye olde D&D style artwork. It is full of amazing adventure maps. Every single hex has at least 3 major points of interest on it. Which, when you look at all the hexes, let's see, what's the largest number on here? There are 25 hexes. 25 times 3, that's a lot of shit. That's a lot of different dungeons to delve into. That's a lot of buildings to go, a lot of monsters to encounter. The design of this island is so that the island is a powder keg waiting to blow, right? Every single hex has something that's teetering on the edge of becoming a problem. The natives that live there are all fighting with each other. The elementals that are pouring out of a portal are causing problems. They haven't like spread past a certain area yet. The idea is that no matter what your party does on this island, will have a domino effect that will affect everything else on the island. A party cannot step 1 foot into this jungle without causing lasting change on the island. Here's a bunch of encounter tables. Look at all this shit. The camera doesn't do a very good job of showing it. That's a lot of small text. That is a lot of fucking small text. This is a hex by hex description of what is in each hex. All right. So in hex 0801, right? So you go to hex 08. Okay. And then there are sub hexes. There is the whale graveyard. Numerous outcroppings of basalt rise from the ocean and along this broad beach. The bloated carcasses of gigantic gray whales litter a half-mile of shoreline, and white bones are strewn across the black sand. Seabirds nest on many of the outcroppings, staining portions of the basalt yellow and pink with their droppings. Now here's the thing, right? There are always like 3 things per hex, 3 major things per hex, and then random encounters otherwise. If you spend time investigating a certain hex, like this description is what you see walking through it. If you stop and spend time in that hex and investigate it, you will investigate what is called the dark, which is the deeper content in that hex you only see by really interacting with it. So in this particular section, the dark is the whole graveyard stinks, but in the wrong way. Even though huge corpses bloat and pop on the black sands, the death smells fresh. The whales are preserved by Mogok, which is an NPC later in the book. And this stretch of beach serves as a sort of farmer's market to the Night Axe, which is an ogre encampment on the island. There's multiple factions. There's Nereids, there's the Elementals, there's the Night Axe, which are a series of ogres, an ogre tribe. There is the titular the Slavers, who are collecting slaves to like bring a demon back. There's a cult on here. There's a whole bunch of like individual factions you can interact with, and these people actually live on the island. You will encounter not just like this is where the ogres live and this is where the Nereids live. You'll have those settlements, but you'll also have like this is where the night ogre go and hunt. This is where the elementals teach their young. This is where, like, all across the island, every hex has. This is a very well written and in-depth location that feels like it exists beyond the players. Honestly, it's a bit of information overload, quite frankly. Now, this book has a whole bunch of good shit. A whole bunch of good shit. A whole bunch of NPCs. A whole bunch of dungeons. A whole bunch of just so much good stuff. You can play on this one island for years. Now, why is it not the sexiest book I own? Because it's a beautiful fucking book. Every piece of art in this is worth the cost of admission. The problem comes from the fact that it is, and I swear, Mr. Hurst, if you read this, I am so sorry. We just have different opinions on things. I'm sure you're a great guy. I follow you on Twitter, and I love your design philosophies. There's a lot of, I don't want to say racism, but the vibe of the book is tropical and tribal. And unless I am terribly wrong, I don't believe anyone on the design team was actually a person of color. I am under the impression that the primary writer is a white man like me. And so a lot of stuff in here, I go, that is in fact a form of racism. Okay, I'm sorry. No, there's a lot of racist stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff. The fantasy they're trying to fulfill, I do not believe, is a fantasy they had a right to try to fulfill. This book right? This book is so well written, but the actual content they use is out of their lane. And reading through it, I marvel at how well designed and laid out and how in-depth the writing is, but also I don't think that they were the ones who had the right to write it. I feel like they needed more sensitivity people working on it. A lot of stuff in here probably would not have flown. I don't even know the historical accuracy. Yeah, it is honestly a shame. Now, here's the thing, right? I still love this book. I would never run it, right? Let me be clear about this. I would never run this book. This is the best hex crawl I have ever read in my life. I will be using this as a design reference going forward, probably until the day that I fucking die. I have never seen a better designed piece of game design, despite the racism. Massive asterisk there. Now, there was 2 books, and this is another thing that fucking blows my mind, because this is the book for running the game. This is the book for handing the players, and this fucking blows my mind. This is a field guide to Hot Springs Island. And where this was a DM's guide for running the world, this is a player's guide for existing in the world. So here's that map. You'll notice it's missing a lot of the details that was on the larger map, right? It also has, as you can see, a bunch of locations already written in. This book is an in-universe guide written by a character who adventured through Hot Springs Island before the party and wrote down everything they learned. This is in-universe lore and letters, and the thing is, right, it's partly filled in because whoever wrote this book didn't get to finish it. This is an unfinished guide. So, like, HSO1 has the boar's head. What's the boar's head? The party doesn't know. The book may have information in it later, but this is just this guy's notebook, right? And whatever else is in HSO1, this guy never encountered it. Or if he did, he didn't survive to write about it. It includes conversations this individual had. It has a sketchy art style, as though the person who wrote it was like scribbling down what they saw as they were going through the island. There's information about the different factions, how this person interacted with them. There's information about enemies. And here's a thing that I love, okay? So it's written from the perspective of the individual. So the information in this book may not actually reflect the objective reality in the main book. This is the information here could be wrong because the person who wrote this got the information from other people who may have their own opinions, who may have their own ideas of how the world works that may not be the objective reality. It also has a whole bunch of fictional plants, similar to the Globetrotter's Guide, that talks about their uses, if they're dangerous or not, and who might like them. There's an entire table in here for every piece of, for like, if you fight hogs, right? The tusks are worth something to the night ogres, but the narratives don't want it. If you find ember coral, right? The slavers like ember coral. They might find worth. Everything in the book, every enemy, every plant, every stone that is given a name and a purpose, someone wants it. And figuring out who wants what and setting up those trades with the different factions is how you get those factions to like you, while also investigating what the island is, what's on the island and what it's used for. It's very, very flavorful. Let's see. I'm trying to find. Okay. So it's got political intrigue. It's got survival. It's got horror. Okay. So one of the things that I love about this is that the world has a history, but the history is not described to anyone coming to the island. You have to encounter it yourself. In this book, it specifically states that if you have an elf character in the party and the narrates find out that you're friends with an elf, any interaction with that faction is gone. The narrates will lose their shit. They'll dive back into the water. You will never see them again. And it's like, well, why? Are they racist to elves? And you find out there are a bunch of these ruins around with this sentient orange sludge. And this is what an orange sludge is. Because there was an ancient race of elves who did evil scientist experiments and ended up turning themselves into the thing. And the sludgy bits of what's left of them still exist around the island. And the narrates remember when those fucking racist, fascist elves showed up and started doing all of this mad science shit. So if they see an elf, they go, fuck that, we're getting out of here, and they fucking dip. Everything on this island is interconnected in a way that has depth and feels real. If only it wasn't really racist. So the idea is that you are to physically take this book and give it to your players. You're supposed to have this under the table, and you say, while walking along the beach, you find a chest. You open the chest. What's inside? There's a gold doubloon. There's some stuff. There's some like tattered old clothing, and you give it to your player. The players can skim through. You can describe what a creature looks like that they haven't encountered before, and the player who has the book can go through and says, you said it's gray and has horns and it's eating a tree. The book says it's a broadback. The book says it's a broadback. A broadback. It's good for blood and maybe meat. But also, so it won't attack us. It won't attack us until we attack it. So it's big and scary, but it's like a cow. Just don't bother it, and it won't bother you. That sort of thing. So yeah, no, this is why I say this is in the top sexiest books. It sounds like I'm excusing the racism. I'm not. The design of this product is fucking galaxy brained. And I honestly, if you can get I don't want to say yo-ho, but if you have someone like me who has a copy and you want to skim through it, give this a look, because you will never find a better hex crawl in your life, quite frankly. I am utterly thrilled with this book. So that is all of my books from least sexy to most sexy. It took me 2.5 hours to get through it. And there is only one thing left that I do want to show you guys. It's not in the sexy book. It's more of a relic than anything. Again, I did a TikTok about this. I found this at the same store that I bought the Rifts book from. Just a black binder. Just a regular black binder. If you open it up, this is someone's 2nd edition D&D DM notebook. All right. This is multiple 2nd edition bestiaries cut out of their book and hole punched and put into a massive fucking binder. This is the first 2 monstrous compendiums, the first 2 major monster manuals for 2nd edition, the Forgotten Realms exclusive book, as well as the Fiend Folio, which was mostly demons and whatnot. And it is in almost perfect condition, except for the fact that obviously it's been cut out of its original binding, hole punched, and put into a binder. This is in fascinatingly good quality. Like it looks like the guy who made this binder made it yesterday. Like he bought these books off the store shelves and made this binder yesterday. There's no stains. Pardon me, there's no notes, there's no scribbles in the margins. This guy just made this massive reference book for all the monsters he possibly could need for 2nd edition, and this was his collection. And I shouldn't be using his pronouns, I'm assuming too much. Women played D&D back then too, so their collection. And this is not something that I ever plan on using. Obviously, I don't play D&D. I have no need for what's in here. What's in here is more racism. But it is still a fascinating relic of the time in such good condition. I couldn't not get it. So I'm gonna pull this out at parties. I know some friends who are like super into D&D who would like pay an arm and a leg to just look at this. So this is one of the cooler things in my collection. So yeah, based on the status of the donation goal, I say this was a very successful stream for me. Thank you guys so much for being so fucking generous. I really appreciate it. Nev adds, I haven't seen a player in Universe Journal pitch mechanically as part of the system as opposed to a brief add-on. Yeah, no, that's really what got my attention at first. Like, hold on. In-universe lore on top of the DM stuff, that's interesting. I like that. And while I'm not going to have the ability to recreate something on this scale, I do like making props for my IRL games. So maybe some kind of larger handout that the players can fiddle around with and has world information in it they can reference might be something you might do in the future. I don't know. I do love me a good prop. I'm actually planning a game, IRL, a one-shot for November for some friends. A couple of them have never played TTRPG before. If they have, they haven't played a good game. So I'm thinking about what props I want to do for that. Nothing too big, but I do have a physical game coming up. Another thing, I like hearing about an example of giving up players different world documents. Oh, like giving different players different information about the world. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I do like that. That's an interesting take. I do like that. Another thing that I really want to do, is unironically, I want to run Paper Mario. Because, like, listen, I know that it's like a video game, okay? But they have detailed maps of every room in every dungeon. They have plot hooks everywhere you go. There's already like a storyline, a main storyline of collecting the star spirits. The puzzles in here would actually adapt to TTRPG fairly simply. I could run a whole campaign using this and my knowledge of the Mario World lore. Like this is the dream for me. Maybe once I get Dreaming and Daring in a playable state, I'll use this as the basis. I don't know. I'll think. Those are my intentions. Let's see. So, yeah, thanks to your guys' generosity, I am definitely going to be able to purchase, I'll probably buy it tonight, the Brady Games book. And when it shows up, maybe we'll do another stream and I'll show it off to you. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you want more IRL streams with Gata talking about game stuff, please let me know. This has been fun. I didn't think it would be this fun, but I'm glad that I actually went through and did it. And yeah, I don't really have an outro. This weekend, I'm streaming a little more frequently than I normally do. I'm planning to stream Friday for the Magic Mod Pack, the Haunted Hoedown. Saturday, I'm going to be on Captain Hurricane's stream as a guest. He's going to be interviewing me. He's going to be raising money for charity. I haven't asked which charity. I should probably figure out that one. But it's the same charity that Sono's been raising money for recently. So I trust Sono. I know Sono would do a good one. So I'll be guest starring on that. I'll be putting links in my Discord for that. I'll put links to the various websites that I use to, can I just, I think it's just, let's do, is it / shoutout? Not period shoutout. Shoutout Captain Hurricane. I think that's right. Go bother them. But yes, Saturday, I think it's right. I shouldn't open Google right now, but no, it's not. Is it? No, it's not. I'm a fake fan. Never mind. Saturday, I'll be on Captain Hurricanes. He's a hedgehog VTuber, so definitely go give him a look. Sunday and Monday, I'll be wanting to do more Haunted Hoedown because then it's Halloween. We got to get to the Bewitchment Wad very, very quickly. And at the speed we're going, we're not going to make it. Isn't it Catman or something? Let me pull up my Twitter real quick. Hopefully this isn't fucking with my stream quality. It might be, though. Let's see here. Where is Hurricane? Where is the Hurricane? Captain. Oh, no, you know what? I have him on Discord. I think it's Cap Hurricane. Hold on. One moment, everyone. I should have done this before. It is Captain, like I Captain. Oh, you already got it? Thank you. There we go. Oh, I can't do more than one shout out. All right, well, never mind. Yeah, we're not going to rate anybody. I'm just going to press the button and leave. Do you have any questions before we go? Anything you wanted to ask about my books or about my design or anything, really? I'm open to talk about anything. Let's see. It's been 2 hours and 39 minutes. Can we go another 10 minutes and make it a solid, well, 20 minutes, actually, not 10, so. What is my sexiest book? It's a fucking tie between The Racist Hexcrawl and See You Space Cowboy. What is my sexiest book? What is my sexiest book? I think my sexiest book would have to be What's So Cool About Vampire Vigilantes? No? Would it be Swing? I think that Vampire Vigilantes is inherently a sexier premise, but I put more effort into the graphic design of Swing. And Swing, I feel, has more uses than What's So Cool About Vampire Vigilantes. So I feel like Vampire Vigilantes wins most sexiest for content. Does Swing still have community copies? Well, first of all, it's SW//NG. I believe if we do plus itch.io, you can look at my books. I don't know if I have community copies, but if you buy one of my books, it'll add a community copy to the pile for someone else to get if you want. Yeah, I think the sexiest design-wise is going to be Bangarang Bay / Daring and Dream, whatever I call it next. I think the system that I'm working on right now is going to be the sexiest. I can't plug for shit, apparently. I can't plug for shit. Vampire Vigilantes, I think it's fun. If I was thinking about doing a second edition for Vampire Vigilantes, making it more of a gothic horror vibe and less of a comedy vibe. What's So Cool VV currently has more of a irreverent tone to it. You would help me with layout, Gata, please. I'd want to be able to pay you. Stop. It's fine. Let me actually finish. No, I will not pay you pennies. You'll get paid what you're worth. I misread that as let me piss. So that's where my mind's at right now. I consider doing more of a gothic horror vibe and having like a class-based system where it's not multi-classing in that you are choosing multiple main classes. It's more like each mechanical part of your character has its own set of classes. So like the combat abilities would be marks. So the Mark of the Wolf would be more about like slashing and attacking violently. Mark of the Snake would be more about movement and poisoning. Mark of the Bat would be more about acrobatics. And like all of this are like vampire powers, right? So you would have a Ghostkin, which is like Danny Phantom. Mark of the Wolf, so like Danny Phantom, but you're a werewolf. And then the individual like spells and stuff you have, your like the tone of your magic, would have another thing. So it's like multi-classing to make your main class. And it would have all the generic like horror monster types, like a traditional blood-based sanguine vampire. You'd have vampires, you would have werewolves, you'd have fishmen, you'd have like undead mummies. Like all of them would be themed around different horror monsters. And you make them to make your monstrous undead, and then do kind of like superhero stuff in a world where you are still a monster. That was the design philosophy I had in mind for Vampire Vigilantes 2nd edition. None of that has materialized. Don't get too excited. I made a logo and that was it. But sometimes a logo is all you need to get started, you know? Once I get Dreaming and Daring into a place where I feel it's more playable, and I'm getting there very quickly, actually. I am rapidly reaching a point where I would feel comfortable talking with an artist about art for Daring and Dreaming. Then I'll probably go back to Vampire Vigilantes. It just sucks that I missed out on the chance to release a horror-themed game on Halloween while one of the major animes features a vampire girl. Like, that would have been the perfect storm for marketing, you know? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck, man? Alas, TTRPG design is iterative. You really can't force it. You may want to, but you cannot. All right. I think that's all I wanted to say. So, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe we'll do one of these again in the nearest future. I don't know. I will have to buy a lot more books, though. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye. This is when I wait, like, 3 minutes to make sure that everyone gets to say good night. Good night, everyone. There's a lag on the stream, so, you know.
Might as well get everybody.
Yeah. If I press stop streaming before the lag catches up for them, it'll cut off. They won't, like, get what they missed. It'll just cease to exist, so I have to wait a minute. That's enough vamping. All right. Good night, guys.